Hi, this is Deadman. If you're watching this video, I assume you're old enough to see gore, violence, swearing, and general adult content. If you aren't old enough, come back with some ID. Or a fake one.
Good afternoon, or should I say evening, morning. Morning? At any rate, I'm the game master.
Todd Habercorn immediately starts off this game great by warmly greeting you and stumbling over the time of day, which works in a medicine, since you could be playing the game at any point.
Before we begin, there is something I must tell you. You see, my job is to draw you into this world with my voice and cards, which is why I believe it best for you to play with the sound on. In fact, I insist on it.
Todd and his Japanese counterpart, Hiroki Yasumoto, are the only voice actors present in the game depending on your language preference, and that fact alone is cool. These two men have to hold the entire game on their voice alone, and that really sells the D&D aspect of the game.
However, as you can see, my voice is subtitled, so you can always read along as well.
Inclusion for the deaf and hard of hearing. One really cool aspect of the game I like is it really sticks with its card motif, making it a very unique game. It really reminds me of playing a tabletop role-playing game. To go with the card aesthetic, since all the images are static, all of the artwork for the game is beautifully drawn by Kimihiko Fujisaka.
The Fellowship asks the Queen what the royal treasure is. The Queen describes a bottle containing a certain liquid. Without it, she trails off, but the desperation in her voice suggests its loss could spell disaster for the kingdom.
Seems straightforward enough. Couldn't possibly be anything sus, right?
The Queen says witnesses might be found at Nexton.
I like that even in the demo, you're encouraged to explore around you just like if you were playing the full game. From moving around the field to the actual battle system, Voice of Cards continually sells that you're playing a tabletop. I mean, I am just blown away by how gorgeous the game is, and how well it sticks to regular tabletop conventions.
Berwyn silently wipes the monster's ichor from his weapon.
The vocabulary is also top-notch. For example, you wouldn't hear the word ichor in most media. They really pulled the dictionary out for this one, and it's highly appreciated since there's not a lot visually going on. The game master needs to be as descriptive as possible.
The man doesn't respond to any question except to parrot back his original greeting.
Sometimes NPCs got an NPC.
After taking a curative, the woman begins hopping up and down. Nothing holds a candle to Ivory Order medicine, she beams. She turns to the Fellowship, her eyes widening in surprise. You three. It seems she's only now realized the Fellowship are disciples of the Ivory Order. The woman takes each of their hands in turn, thanking them for their service. The Ivory Order is famous for providing medical supplies throughout the realm, and indeed the wider world.
It's one thing to notice it from the outside during the main campaign, but it's another to actually see it up close. People rely on and appreciate the Ivory Order for their medicines around the world, and it's kinda neat to be regarded as celebrities.
The Fellowship comes upon an anchored ship. Close by, a fisherman of exquisite physique hauls a net out of the water, his muscles rippling. This is no time for lustful reverie.
Winifred is thirsty.
The Fellowship hears a young man arguing with the apothecary. Make it cheaper, he bellows. As the Fellowship approaches the door to intervene, the young man bursts out of the shop.
That silhouette looks awful familiar.
The fisherman snatches up the concoction, so delighted that his pectoral muscles begin twitching. The Fellowship politely ignores this fact. Berwyn pulls on the massive handles with all his might, It moves not an inch. Berwin gives the door a roundhouse kick out of pure frustration. As his foot connects, the door trundles to the side. So it was one of those sliding contraptions. What will become of the land now that the dragon has returned? I'm afraid that will have to wait. We're all out of time for this portion of the adventure. Don't you worry. We'll continue the tale another time. I look forward to our next session. Until then, I bid you good day. Farewell, friend.
In a very Yoko Taro fashion, the demo of Voice of Cards, The Isle Dragon Roars, is actually a prequel of sorts. Not a lot of backstory is given, but some information is sprinkled in here. Plus, you don't get any bit of spoiling the main story. Yes, it's a pre-order/deluxe edition bonus, but I love the inclusion of near-replicant/gestalt cosmetics being able to turn Voice of Cards into a tabletop homage to its predecessor. You can tell immediately that Keiichi Okabe had his hands on the OST. Granted, he doesn't compose everything, but the team of him, Oliver Good, and Shotaro Seo make a fantastic soundtrack that may not reach the heights of the Nier soundtracks, but is amazing in its own right. The loading screen is shuffling the cards. Yep, that's a win.
You're doling out wins ridiculously, and the actual game hasn't even started. All you've done is cover some of the demo and the title menu of this game, and the wins are past 700. Why?
Is it really a crime to do what I love to do? I love breaking things down to why they're so great. A game like this isn't going to garner as much attention as the next big-budget AAA game, so it's on me and others like me to appreciate this unique game. Also, just to spite you, I'm adding 50 wins for this.
You see, my job is to draw you into this world with my voice and cards.
Voice of Cards, he said the title of the game.
He said voice and cards, you dolt.
Too late, the clip's already playing, can't stop it now.
Nice. We begin in a cave. The surrounding rocks are slimy with damp. It feels as if some foul creature could leap out from the shadows at any moment.
I seriously cannot get over how this plays out just like a tabletop adventure. It's neat you can sort of see how your actions will play out. The final battle of the demo is in the main game, and if you hadn't played the demo, you wouldn't really be out any info, but it does have a little extra context and nods to the adventure of the main game. It certainly glosses over the extra information of what you're doing in the demo, but it's not technically needed. I love the way the chapters are introduced, with the vocal version of the title theme, as well as a what's to come for the next chapter.
In the crowded audience chamber jostle all manner of knights, adventurers, and bounty hunters.
Like any good DM, there's a soundboard for any sounds needed. In this case, it's villagers and adventurers chattering among themselves.
Thank you all for heeding my call to slay the dragon.
The Isle Dragon Roar starts off like a typical adventure, but as per the Yoko Taro Handbook of Storytelling, it becomes more than that.
I thank you, for my stomach becomes most upset without it. So the treasure is a staple of the royal medicine cabinet.
Foreshadowing for what was actually in the bottle the Ivory Order trio retrieved.
Pay attention, because this is important. There he is, or there you are, I should say, the hero of our tale. A humble bounty hunter. You love little in this realm more than coin. A seemingly tedious fellow who doesn't hesitate to claim the title of hero for yourself. When you heard about the quest to slay the dragon, it was the promise of reward that lured you to the castle.
A nice flip on the norms of the hero trope. Our would-be hero is kind of a scoundrel, only really caring about himself and more. He doesn't care about actually slaying the dragon, only reaping the benefits. It's interesting to see, and it does set up his character arc nicely.
For some reason or another, you've written your name incorrectly. Let's try this again. Thank you. Now we'll know what to have engraved on your tombstones.
Oh, that's kind of dark, but it does make sense.
No way am I adventuring with anyone who keeps that sort of creepy company, he says.
Oh, that's not very nice. It's just a donkey.
Before you even open your mouth to ask him to team up, he cuts you off. Thanks, but no thanks.
Rude.
Her face curls into a scowl as she notices you. Monster! The woman cries and flings magic at Mar.
Holy shit, super rude.
We're a little busy, you say. You make to leave, but Melanie stands in your way. What kind of person are you? She snaps. We've got the dragon to worry about, you say, like an insensitive jerk.
I always like it when choices are presented to you, but there's no actual bearing on the story. So here, you get to enjoy the story as you like, but Ash can also be a dick, which usually leads to hilarious conversations.
She thanks you and pulls something from her breast pocket.
By doing side quests for these mysterious cards, you can unlock the true ending by collecting all 10. Battling monsters, completing side quests, and talking to people nets you their full cards, front and back to view in your collection, and yeah, some of them are pretty messed up.
The innkeeper gives you a room free of charge in a show of support for any and all who wish to defeat the dragon.
Helpful innkeeper is helpful.
Looks like you accidentally grabbed Winifred's coin purse when you ran into her.
Sure. Accidentally.
Taking pity on your ineptitude, the Ivory Order trio uses their magic to heal your wounds.
They kicked our asses, but at least we got a free heal from it.
Aimless wandering can be fun.
The game master says it best. When in a world such as this, it's always fun to go exploring. You can occasionally run across events, which can get you extra gold, gear, or items, or occasionally it's another battle. Either way, it's pretty cool as it cuts down on placing characters on the map for specific quests or side objectives, and instead just has you randomly rewarded. Almost as if people have lives outside of waiting for the hero to come across them and fulfill their one quest.
You kick a rock down the road, muttering about what jerks those three from the Ivory Order are. Cut it out, chides Melanie. She warns you your anger will only come back to bite you in the rear. You grumble, but your sulking is cut short when out of the thicket leaps a monster. The rock you kicked must have hit it, because it is really mad. Brace yourself for battle.
The humor in writing is top-notch, and you can't convince me otherwise. This is too funny. There's even a minigame you can play with, you guessed it, cards.
The monster defeated, you turn toward the treasure chest. And see those Ivory Order jerks rooting through it. You rush over, but you're too late to stop them. Sweet of you to take care of the monsters for us, trills Winifred, favoring you with a smile.
Those Ivory Order jerkbags can't have shit in Voice of Cards.
Were you able to find my treasure? Cypri asks. This is all we found, says Melanie, withdrawing the ragged doll. Cypri's eyes widen as soon as he sees the doll, and he reaches out to take it. Without breaking his gaze away from the doll, he begins to speak. Cypri tells you he gifted this doll to his young daughter a long time ago, but she fell gravely ill and died. Since then, Cypri has treasured this doll as he treasured his daughter. Then the monsters took it from him.
In a nice twist, the real treasure wasn't treasure, but instead something sentimental to Cypri. Something far more valuable than gold or jewels could ever be.
Journeying to Unionville entails traversing the dense expanse of the Bewildering Wood. You'll need this, he says, and holds out something for you.
You'll need an ocarina to get through woods that make you lost, you say.
You'll have to hand over the woodland flute first. That'll cost you 1,000 gold pieces, you say smugly. Ugh, It's always about money with you travelers, she snorts derisively. Her face contorts in disgust. She reaches into her cloak. Hey, what about my money? You stammer. Before you can finish your thought, Mar's tongue whips across your hand, snatching the fruit and sliding it into his gullet. Ridis gasps. How could you let him do that? Just one of those fruits sells for 10,000 gold pieces, she shouts.
Damn it, Mar, this is why we can't have nice things.
Ridis plucks the woodland flute out of your hands with glee and begins playing it as she skips away. Well, playing is a generous term. It sounds as though she may as well be murdering the poor thing. She begins speaking of Ridis, who has been preparing the medicine that helps her get through the day. She blames her illness, and therefore herself, for making Ridis's life so difficult. The more she talks, the more her face drops.
Even though Ridis acts like an impetuous child, her heart's in the right place and she does all she can to take care of her mother, which in turn leads them to being in serious debt.
Wake me up when you need me.
There's a trophy for idling so long your DM falls asleep.
You toss a nearby bucket into the well and haul it up by the rope. Rather, you attempt to, but thanks to Mar robbing you of a meal, your strength fails you. Melanie tosses a nearby bucket into the well and hauls it up by the rope. But she hasn't the strength to raise a full bucket out of the well.
Damn it, Mar, this is why we can't have nice things!
Mar's eyes light up. He scrambles over the edge of the well and sucks the well dry in an instant. He pokes at his swollen belly and gestures toward Ridis's house, as if to say, "Get me back there, quick."
Ash and Melanie not being able to lift the bucket out of the well due to Mar eating their meal is hilarious.
Mar douses the house with the water he sucked up from the well.
Mar channels his inner super soaker to help Ridis out. I especially like when effects are used to accent what's going on. Yeah, I'd say a flaming hellhound is a good reason for a house fire. Happenstance cards are a good way to change the flow of battle and something to keep you alert with your tactics.
You hand the man some salve. The instant he applies it to his hands, he resumes his furious digging, this time punctuated with shouts of "I feel incredible." Not long after that, water erupts from the ground with a force unlike any you've seen.
I need some of that salve. Holy crap, that's incredible.
She pulls the woodland flute from her cloak and begins softly playing. Ridis's ear-splitting performance, shall we say, draws monsters out from behind the trees. Within moments, they are nearly upon you.
Ridis plays the instrument so badly, all of the monsters come out to tell her to shut it.
That's odd. I must have made a mistake, Ridis says, burying her face in her old book once more. She opens the book to a particular page and thrusts it in your face. You can't tell anyone in the village I let you see this, okay? It's a page of sheet music with a note scrawled beside it that reads, "Play this lucky tune to reverse your financial fortunes and make money woes a thing of the past." No matter how many times I played this last night, our debt never went down, she fumes, incensed. You inspect the page a bit more carefully. Off in a corner, in letters so small as to be illegible, another message reads, "May summon monsters if played incorrectly."
It's play to offer laughs, but I genuinely feel bad for Ritis. She tries so hard to take care of her mother, it becomes her own worst enemy. By playing the money-making song incorrectly, she summons monsters that destroy her house, putting her even further in debt.
You finally see that so long as Ritis holds the flute, this is nothing more than a monster conjuring melody. You snatch the woodland flute from her hands. You have lost your flute-playing privileges, you inform her.
But grounding her from the flute is hilarious.
I was hoping I could join you on your quest to defeat the dragon. Ritis suddenly blurts out. No, I won't dilute my shares of the riches any further. No more additions. Have you no heart? Are you just going to leave a young, helpless girl like me to drown in an ocean of debt and deal with that crusty old man? Ritis fires back relentlessly. I want to go. No. So goes the endless chorus of your thoroughly unproductive argument.
The writing is still top-notch with this hilarious back and forth.
Your well-reasoned argument of no thwarted, you nod your head in resignation and welcome Ritis to the party. Wow, a new friend, and so big, too, the furball exclaims in glee as it rushes over to Mar. Mar stares off into the distance as the furball snuggles up to his leg. For some reason, Ritis joins in on the cuddling.
Hugs!
Lately, a suspicious man cloaked in black has been seen wandering about the village outskirts. The old woman looks at Melanie and remarks that he was dressed just like her.
Foreshadowing for meeting Vince.
You're drooling, Melanie scowls. You hadn't even noticed. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve, then gasp as you turn to Mar. Perhaps in an attempt to hold himself back, Mar is gnawing on the table corner. You approach a woman sneaking around in a corner of town. Hearing your voice, she turns in surprise. You see a vial of cold medicine clutched in her hands. You explain that the person she stole it from needs it back. The woman begins to explain her own situation with downcast eyes. My poor little boy is bedridden, she says tearfully. He needs medicine, but I don't have any money, so I took it. Hearing her tale, you are overcome by sympathy and decide to look the other way. She thanks you and hands you something, apologizing for not having more.
I'm always a fan of morally great decisions. Yes, she stole, but it was for her family. There's not a right or wrong answer for that. I love that even the side quests can get the same reverential treatment as the main quest.
You explain that you were unable to find the thief. Clearly saddened by the news, she explains that she keeps the medicine on hand for her husband, who gets sick quite easily. She laments that she may not have the money to buy more. Unsure if you made the right choice, you return to your journey with a heavy heart.
And the consequences are equally as great, with this woman needing the medicine as much as the other.
The man says that he and Melanie came from the same village, where this was their native dress. The man's revelation makes you realize that you know almost nothing about Melanie's past.
That's pretty bad. You need to be confronted by the baddie to realize you know nothing about your traveling companion.
You can feel your collective mouths watering at the sight of the lavish meal before you. You, Mar, and Ritis immediately dig in. You aren't sure where you find a moment to breathe among all the feasting. Please, eat to your heart's content, the headman insists with a smile. Once your belly is full, you realize that Mr. Flobby is gone. And then, room for dessert? The headman asks, offering you a plate of slimy jelly. You feel your stomach churning at the very sight of it. The color strikes you as familiar, and the stickiness sends a shiver down your spine. Is this Mr. Flobby? You ask the headman, your voice trembling in disbelief. The headman looks at you with a plain expression, one that holds no malice. Is that a problem? He questions back. This dish is a masterpiece, he remarks with a light-hearted chuckle as he gazes at the jelly. And I have you brave heroes to thank for it. Had you not brought that slime back, we would not be able to enjoy this exquisite dessert.
The horrifying realization that Unionville is only a peaceful place for monsters because they're lured in to become exotic meals is, well, horrifying. It's all conveyed very visceral, even when it's one person reading off all the text. Again, I praise Todd Hackerborn for his role as the game master.
I try to get my meat while it's still young and tender, but at least your pet is very plump, he remarks, licking his lips. He points at Mar and asks, would you consider leaving that creature here with me? Never, you refuse flatly, not bothering to hide your discomfort. Think about it, he entreats, and then you grab the headman by his lapels, hands trembling in fury.
Since the headman can't read a room, he gets his just desserts. God damn it, Ned, quit messing with my scripts, you horned asshole! Because he's the headman and not somebody important, this fight is appropriately short.
Curled up on the ground, the headman groans in pain, but insists that monsters were meant to be eaten. You hug Mar tightly, reassuring him that you will not hand him over to anyone. Mar looks at you with his round eyes and mews softly.
That's sweet. And sad.
But this is strange. The extract comes from a monster, so it should have no effect on one, Lappy remarks with a curious tilt of his head.
Foreshadowing for Mar's true identity.
Praising his musculature seems to put him in high spirits.
Compliments.
He stares at the extract for a long time, and then opens the bottle and laps at the liquid inside. That's poison, Melanie shouts in alarm. The man insists that he'll be fine with his expertise of nutrition, and insists that knowledge is power, as if that will help somehow. Regardless, it seems he managed to grasp the composition of the poison with that lick, and starts concocting a nutritional supplement to counter it.
Oreo has a god-tier constitution and rolled a nat 20 for not being horrifically poisoned.
He introduces himself as Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno, no.
Is it a reward you're after? You are about to ask. But Melanie smacks you on the head before you can voice it and allows him to come along.
I have no idea if this is because Bruno is eye candy or she doesn't want Ash to be a dick, but it's funny either way.
In that moment, you realize something. While his passion for being an adventurer is true, he is dumber than a sack of rocks.
Bruno being a himbo isn't all bad. He's passionate and is a strong ally, both in fighting and his knowledge of medicine. Besides, I'm sure Melanie and Rita certainly don't mind.
The words "birds of a feather flock together" run through your mind, but you quickly chase them away, afraid of what that means for you. Just then, Bruno prances forth and shouts, "Stop right there!" Your fisherman muscles are simply sublime, he exclaims. He challenges the man to a competition of muscles with the spry fish as the prize.
His two muscle-bound dorks reminds me of Sagan Armstrong.
Incredible valor! Respectable muscles!
A battle of beefiness. His victory sealed, Bruno strikes a glorious pose and shouts out, "Witness the power of power."
Bruno is a dork and I love him.
Bruno takes your hand and gives it a firm shake. You can feel the bones in your hands splintering. You just hope Bruno has enough self-restraint not to shatter them completely. You make a mental note never to shake hands with him again. Knowledge of nutrition can help save lives, but also strike down enemies, Oreo said. Wow, nutrition is incredible, Ridis marvels, not putting too much thought into the events before her.
Ridis is just happy to be along for the ride.
Yet another colorful character.
That's one way of describing Bruno.
We have finally arrived at the Tower of Legend. Is everyone ready? You ask with a posed look. Bruno is the first to respond. But this is just an old lighthouse, he remarks, oblivious to your sudden embarrassment. Ridis snorts to herself, seeing you red in the face from jumping to conclusions.
Ash putting his foot in his mouth is never not funny.
Ridis rolls up her sleeves and shouts, "Open sesame." You swear you have heard these words somewhere before. You all watch in silence as the door stays shut. You snort to yourself, seeing Ridis red in the face. Bruno exhales deeply, then places both hands on the door. He pushes with all his might, his breath labored, chest heaving, sweat dribbling. And it opens. It seems the magic seal could not protect the door from the physical might of your most stalwart companion.
Dumb shit like this is why I tell everyone to play D&D. It's so much fun, and you can literally break the game with your shenanigans.
Something glimmers on the floor. Melanie suggests it might be money. You are instantly upon the shining object, picking it up. Melanie asks why you have such a fixation with money. We were poor, so you begin. Then remember being serious isn't in your character. Leaving your past a mystery, you quickly throw aside the shiny piece of glass and move on.
That's a nice fourth wall break, as well as being his actual backstory.
Melanie considers the words, but cannot seem to concentrate, with the oppressive heat radiating from Bruno's sweltering pose.
Melanie is thirsty.
You feel your eye twitch, realizing that your comrades may be the death of you. You muster up your courage and shout, "Prepare yourself, you big lizard." But the dragon's roar sends your bravery flying with the wind.
One small thing I adore is bosses aren't immune to anything you can throw at it, making every playstyle viable.
Isn't that bad for actually tactically planning out your attack instead of throwing whatever at it?
Oh. I suppose you're right, it does make things a tad too easy, doesn't it?
We shall strike you down, you exclaim, slashing out while cheering on your comrades. But at that moment, Vince appears. Its wounds healed, the dragon looks more lively than before.
Vince working with the dragon is not a twist I was expecting, but there's more to come.
No matter how hard he pushes, though, the boat does not budge. It's pointless, you sigh, turning around when a muscle-bound Melanie stands before you.
Swole Melanie is quite possibly the funniest joke in the game. She's not just for show either. Her stats are actually increased in battles.
You turn your earnest eyes to her and say, "Please, lend us your strength." But, unable to hold back at the sight of her impressive build, burst into laughter. But in the next instant, you receive a violent punch to the face and are sent flying. "I will never be a beautiful bride like this," Melanie mutters sadly. "You're wrong," Bruno exclaims. "Those muscles are the most beautiful thing a bride could ever have."
Making your friends feel better. Or at least trying to.
According to him, the dragon flew to the west, where there is an island called Mount Medica. Rumor has it they are actively researching medicine on this island. He thinks he can use their knowledge in his work. Understanding his father's wishes, Bruno nods. Say no more.
Aw, that's nice of Oreo. He's letting his son continue adventuring and getting to learn more about medicine. Everybody wins.
Mount Medica. something stirs deep inside your chest, but you blame your imagination and board the boat without another thought.
Foreshadowing for Ash and Mar. That's ominous.
You, however, are a bit worn out, as your mid-voyage teasing of Melanie prompted her to wring you like a rag.
His car is even crumpled up.
A white-hot streak of pain shoots through your head, feeling as though your skull will split in two.
Ash is confirmed to be Harry Potter.
You are accosted by a man the instant you set foot in the village.
Visually, you can tell immediately there's something going on with the village because the villager card looks off.
You give him a glimpse of the medicine. Nothing in this life is free, you sneer. Your callousness is swiftly punished as the medicine slips from your grasp and clatters to the ground.
Ash is a lightning rod for instant karma.
Ritis briefly reveals the medicine under her cloak. Nothing in life is free, she says, clearly mocking your earlier blunder. Her fun is short-lived, as she too loses her grip on the medicine. Karma is cruel and indiscriminate. The old man sighs, saying he lost both his son and grandson to the medicine. Not wanting to be the only one left behind, he lifts the bottle in his hand to his lips and gulps it down.
Holy shit, that's dark.
Well, it is Yoko Taro.
I know it is, but damn!
He continues talking to the fallen man as he provides emergency care. Seeing the knight's devotion makes you feel a bit like a putz for doing nothing. The villager is now clawing at his own face with his fingernails, crying out for medicine. Blood, as black as tar, begins oozing out of his eyes, ears, and mouth. It proceeds to leak from every orifice imaginable. The convulsions subside. Within moments, the villager lies still.
The music has great timing as it just stops when the villager dies. The rest of this adventure was just a fun, normal romp through the lands, but this last act of the game is just pitch black. There's the Yoko Taro I know.
And as well you know, that which is dead can never return.
The card ripping in half is a visually great way of showing death.
He apologizes for the villager's incivility. Consider it the price to pay for making the world a better place, he adds nonsensically.
Ouch, that's a hell of a deep cut for knowledge we aren't partial to yet.
The medicine bottle Sherwin received is probably related to their journey into the volcano somehow. Bruno recalls seeing a bottle much like it once before. He says it contains flash freeze, which can chill most anything.
It's certainly handy having someone around who knows so much about medicines.
You know that the dragon is lurking in the volcano, but you haven't a clue how to get from here to there. Isn't it that mountain with all the smoke pouring out of it? Ritis asks, pointing westward. Why, yes, that sure does look rather like a volcano. A clump of familiar white outfits comes into view. You've caught up with the Ivory Order at last. We shall be the ones to fell the dragon, you proclaim loudly to no one, apparently, for the Order pays you no mind.
Ah, the struggles of being a nobody.
The lava bubbles and swirls as monsters leap out onto the rock before you. It would seem the only way out is through. In a flash, Sherwin's blade cleaves one in two. Clearly, he has earned his rank within the Order.
Sherwin is stupid, scary, powerful. So much he killed the music along with the monster. Something interesting to note. While this doesn't take place in the Dragontear universe, the forbidden spell does look like it has the black scroll or the runes that appeared at the end of Drakengard.
The dragon speaks. He declares that he wishes to see further harm befall none. Then you ought not to have brought harm upon us, you shout, listing off the horrors you have heard on your journey. Vince, filled with righteous indignation, denounces each and every one as a lie. The dragon admits that your prowess in battle and willingness to pursue him the world over have earned you the right to hear the truth about this world. The dragon claims he shares a special bond with the medicine that helps people the world over. All those who succeeded in capturing the dragon in the past forced him to live a nightmarish existence on this island. They would stab him with several hundred spears. They would slice his scales off with their swords. Every day a fresh horror would visit him in the heart of the island, and every day he would cry out in pain. They then gathered up the Dragontear he shed and used it to produce their medicine. Everyone in the world drinks this medicine as though it were water. Taking this medicine heals all wounds and cures all ills. It is a crutch that humanity can no longer live without. The primary ingredient in this medicine is Dragontear. You cast your mind back over your travels, over all the people who sought the medicine and were saved by it. The mere thought that so much good was born of the dragon's torture makes your mind reel. You feel unmoored. No one moves, or so much as makes a sound. His words weigh on each and every one of you.
Oof, this is why context matters. The Ivory Order has been hiding the true origin of the medicine, and it was from the dragon's suffering the entire time. It's another one of those twists that turns everything on its head and has that signature YOKO TARO depression.
The dragon claims he has grown weary of suffering for the benefit of humankind. And so, he intones, I beseech you, strike me down.
There's the cherry on top of the depressing sundae. The dragon is just so tired of existing as a thing for others, just wants to go on. He just doesn't want to go on.
In one motion, Sherwin unsheathes his sword and cleaves the dragon in two.
I did not see that coming.
You're given a limited number of moves to get out of the volcano, since after Sherwin killed the dragon, well, it made the volcano even more active than before. Apparently dragon corpses are enough to make the entire thing blow.
You ask Selfor what the deal with this island is. After a moment, he begins speaking in a quiet voice. He tells you about the medicine factory here on the island that the Ivory Order oversees, and that this village was founded in order to provide a steady supply of human test subjects for their new medicine.
That adds an extra layer of what the fuck to this whole situation.
Your eyes land on a progression of horizontal notches on the lower section of a support beam, markings to measure a child's growth. And carved into the beam beside the markings are your and Mar's names. Seeing your names unleashes a flood of memories you hadn't realized you'd kept locked away.
Finding out Ash and Mar came from the village of Sick is unexpected as hell, especially since you didn't know you were playing an amnesiac the entire time. It even sends you into a flashback of the day you lost everyone but Mar.
The trauma of what happened, combined with the effects of the medicine, spurred the loss of your memories.
Ash and Mar used to be test subjects, and that's the reason Mar is no longer human and their parents died. This adventure really did spiral out fast.
But now you remember the horror in full detail. Sobbing, you gather Mar in your arms. Melanie, Riddis, and Bruno just stand there in silence, absorbing the truth of your origins. Melanie, who knows all too well the pain of losing your parents, turns to you with tears on her cheeks. We have a lot in common, you and I. That's how we've made it this far together, she says softly. Moved by her kindness, you give her a silent nod. But I've still got farther to go, you say, scrubbing your face dry.
Melanie being reserved towards Ash the entire game makes this moment so impactful. It really shows the growth these characters have gone through.
You draw your fist back and let it fly into the boulder with everything you've got. There comes a crunching sound. Your hand reddens and begins to swell. Boulder, 1. You, 0. You shall not pass.
You shall not pass!
How I detested that medicine. It took my parents from me. You struggled to conceal your shock that you and Sherwin suffered the same tragedy. Nursing his grudge, he infiltrated the Order so that he could destroy it from the inside out.
I always do love a two sides of the same coin trope, and this is a good version of it. With Sherwin's drive for revenge so great, he decided to destroy the entire Ivory Order.
So it has come to this, he murmurs, before gulping it down. Sherwin's body begins morphing into something grotesque. You hear a voice echoing in your head. A lifeless world, a deathless world. This fetid plain will be purged so that it gleams pure white once more. I, the Owisiswin, will make sure of it.
If you have darkness in your heart, you turn into a dragon yourself by the looks of it.
Its name is pretty stupid, though.
Yeah, that's the only bad thing about it, though. With...
Say it.
I don't wanna, it's ridiculous.
You're the positive one, you gotta do it.
With Owisiswin being the final boss, it's represented by multiple cards, giving you a much-needed challenge for the endgame.
Struggling against his power, Melanie recalls Vince's final words. Your spell can make this world a better place. Through everything, realization strikes her. The only way out of this is to use forbidden magic. I offer myself body and soul as payment. Melanie recites the spell, then turns to you. I'm sorry, she says, her voice faint. You'll have to finish what you started without me.
Self-sacrifice. I also love how the title theme comes in as she starts incanting her spell.
The moment you reach her, you notice something strange. Melanie's transformed into a monster.
Wow, that really is a rough sacrifice.
The world, cut off from its supply of medicine with the dragon's death. Your twin, for whom you have searched high and low for some way of restoring her human form. And Melanie, transformed into a monster and lying prone before your very eyes. You must decide for which purpose to put the all-powerful Dragontear. Oh, think long and hard about this one.
You are presented with these three choices. All of them have your signature YOKO TARO depressed ending. If you choose Melanie, she's angry at you for choosing her over Mar, but still adventures on with you, all the while the Civil War is brewing because of the lack of medicine. Mar cannot speak, but is probably upset by you not choosing Melanie, who sacrifices herself. Similarly, the dragon chides you for resurrecting it, but you roam the countryside with your two monster companions. What about the last ending, you ask? Well, let's find out, shall we?
As though you were trying to cling to something, you offer up every supplication to the Dragontear. And then... the Dragontear's light overwhelms you. You feel your consciousness start to slip away. Where's that voice coming from? Wake up, screams Ridis, shaking you ungently. Your eyes peel open, and you glance around. You're alive, says Melanie through flowing tears. You let go of a heavy sigh of relief to see she's human again. Bruno says you collapsed after the Dragontear started shining with fierce light, and that you've been unconscious ever since. That's when you realize Mar is nowhere to be seen. You wrap Mar, returned to human, in your firm embrace. Thus your journey drew to its conclusion. As for the story afterward, you return to Advent Castle and make your report of the events to Queen Nilla. She rewards you handsomely for telling her the truth about the dragon, but it's barely enough to cover the cost of repairs to Ridis' home. Bruno returns to the coastal village he calls home, still squabbling with Oreo. The dragon agrees to continue providing Dragontear for the kingdom, so long as he can live the rest of his life in peace and quiet. Queen Nilla denounces the Ivory Order for their cruelty and seizes control of medicinal production. She does all she can to ensure a more ethical manufacturing process. Winifred, Hedwyn, and Berwyn leave the Ivory Order, establishing a new organization to help the needy. And what of you, Mar and Melanie? Queen Nilla asks you to serve in her court, but that's not really something the three of you are cut out for. You decline to set off for new adventures. And to this day, the incessant bickering of the bounty-hunting twins and the Black Witch can be heard in various far-flung corners the world over.
The final true ending sees you use the numbered cards you've gathered on your journey to wish for everyone and everything to be right again. And in an uncharacteristic fashion for YOKO TARO, there's a happy ending for everyone. The dragon makes sure the land continues to have medicine, but is able to live its life in peace. Ash, Mar, and Melanie get to travel on even more adventures, with everyone being back to their normal human form. Ridis pays off her debts, and Bruno goes back to living with Oreo. Whew! This ending was on a happy note after the last two were a bit depressing. Appropriately enough, the credits continue the theme of cards!
Thank you for playing. Did you enjoy your adventure?
As always, I love when a game thanks you for playing.
My sincerest apologies, gentle player. I will take your words to heart. As a gentleman, gently.
That's a hilarious note to end on. Wait, is that why there's a new voice actor for Gamemaster and Forsaken Maiden? Wait, no! Come back, Todd, I was kidding!
I hope we meet again in the world of Voice of Cards.
My sequel senses are tingling! As you can tell, I really loved Voice of Cards. But as much as I would like to recommend this game to everyone, I can't. This game and its gimmicks outside of a regular RPG only really work if you're a fan of tabletops. Otherwise, everything being made of cards, the dice rolls, the single voice actor... It's a fantastic game, but I feel like most people would get bored or annoyed by the setup, because outside of the few visual things it shows you, a lot of it is left up to the imagination. I don't say this in any way as a deterrent, just as a warning. The story is mostly your average fantasy adventure, with some of the typical twists you'd expect from YOKO TARO. Nothing as mind-melting as either Nier games, but still a few things that I was shocked to see. There's also an easier barrier for entry, with you not needing to find lore on a single candy bar wrapper sold on the mountaintop of one shop at 3:45 on June the 11th. Please don't let YOKO TARO see this and get any ideas. Jokes aside, it's a lot easier to get into the story and complete it with minimal questions on the world or lore, so that part is at least an easy sell. I've talked in length about how much I love Keiichi Okabe's music, and his influence is felt through most of the tracks he didn't work on, but let's talk about Oliver Good. He did fantastic work of having a typical fantasy-sounding soundtrack, but it never gets old or boring to listen to. I'm very impressed with the short soundtrack and how well it flows with the game. The gameplay plays like a regular RPG, but, with a card gimmick. Instead of having MP, you can pull from the pieces you receive every turn, being able to bank on them for stronger attacks. I wish I could say more about it, but it's your turn-based RPG, that's pretty much there is to it. It's still very fun though. The graphics are, there's not really much graphics to speak of, but all the artwork they use for everything is beautiful. But Kimihiko Fujisaka is the artist, and considering her past work as a character designer for Drakengard and Nier Replicant, it's not that surprising. In closing, forget what I said initially, I do want everyone to try this, then go try to play D&D. It's an incredibly fun time, and after playing tabletops, it's always fun to go back to games and see the inspiration, especially games like this that are a direct inspiration. Thank you for watching, and try not to die out there.
As though you were trying to cling to something, you offer up every supplication to the Dragontear. And then...
Monster Taro! Monster Taro!